Let's talk about Willis Towers Watson's video interview. Welcome guys, I'm Mike from Job Ready English. This is the Pass the Interview series where we break down the video interview processes for world famous companies to help you get hired.
Yeah, baby!
Today we're going to be talking about Willis Towers Watson. They are one of the largest insurance companies in the world with over $9 billion in revenue and just over 46,000 staff. They've been awarded as one of the UK's top 100 places to work by JobCrowd and also one of Singapore's top places to work. Willis Towers Watson used to be known in the UK as Towers Watson until in 2016 they merged with the American insurance company Willis to become the world's third largest reinsurance company, behind Marsh McLennan and Aon. And they're an absolutely fantastic company to work with.
Not bad, not bad.
If there's another company that you'd like us to break down the interview for, then be sure to drop that down in the comments. And if you want to know a little bit more about how to pass the interview in a longer course, you can check out our free Skillshare course, which is also down in the description. Let's talk about the interview process. I picked out Willis Towers Watson as it's probably not a company that many people would pick out as one of the first companies in their mind.
Really?
But for me, it is a really great graduate employer. They've got lots of opportunities. And also, for me, their interview process is a little bit stranger than the norm.
I'm eccentric.
So it's a video interview done through Hirevue, but you can expect 4 questions. And unusually, 2 of those questions you'll answer via video. And 2 of those questions you'll actually be expected to write out your answer. And this isn't something that I've ever really come across before, so I thought it was quite interesting when I went through this with a client recently. It was something that I thought would be really great for the channel. So we're going to pick out 7 questions and break these down for you and understand the what, the how and the why. And also just bear in mind that for any of these questions you could be asked to deliver it as a video or you could be asked to write it out. In terms of the timings, you're looking at about 2 minutes to respond for a video, which is roughly about 200 to 250 words, and 5 minutes to write a written response with 30 seconds in between. So you're looking at about a 30-minute interview process. So let's jump in and look at these 7 questions that I've picked out which have popped up recently. Why this company and this line of work? Now this question is really one that not only breaks down, and you'll know from if you watched any of my other past the interview videos, that we're looking for those 5 facts that we can really pick out, that resonate with us, that are interesting about the company and that are unique. And also in a wider frame, talking about the insurance industry. There's a derivative of this question, which is what do you know about Willis Towers Watson and what they do within the pensions industry?
They're great!
For this, I highly recommend, unless you are studying to be an actuary and you understand this really well, you take a bit of a deeper dive into the way the insurance and pensions industry work. And for those of you who are watching who are hoping to become actuaries, after this interview you can expect a much longer 1-hour interview, which is going to dig into your CV, your experience, and also some technical questions based around the actuarial papers. So just remember, when answering why this company, you really want to think 1 minute for why this company, 1 minute to talk about the pensions or the insurance industry and your interest within it. Number 2, when have you worked in a high performing team? This is a super interesting question, and it's one that I don't really come across. It's one that you would maybe expect to hear in banking, but thinking and breaking this question down, a high performing team is one that is putting out a lot of work.
So, working hard or hardly working?
And also is probably operating on quite a high level of technical skill. Definitely when we think about the insurance industry and really being driven by maths and statistics, this is where you'll find a lot of really smart people who are going to be technically gifted and really good at what they do and kind of crunching the numbers for quite complex scenarios and situations. So at a time when you worked in a high performing team, could this be a sports team, an extracurricular activity? Could it be a really good group project that you got a lot out of because you had some really intelligent classmates? And why are they asking this? Well, they're asking to see how you interact with that team, how you help that team communicate and move towards completing a goal or meeting a deadline. Number 3, tell me about a time when you led a team. A classic question about leadership. There's nothing really too strange about this question. When breaking down behavioural and competency questions, do remember you're going to be wanting to answer that in the STAR format. which is situation, task, action, result. If you don't really understand that and you want a way that that's being broken down a little bit more, do check out our free Pass the Interview Skillshare course. It's really quite helpful, and there's some more videos where I break down this process. Why is leadership important? All companies are looking for leaders.
I respond to strong leadership.
They're going to invest 5 figures in training you to become a chartered actuary, a business analyst, a reinsurance agent, whatever that may be. But companies spend a lot of money to train people, and they really do that in mind, knowing that most of the graduates will probably leave within 3 to 5 years, and they want to make sure that they're taking on graduates who have that ability to work and move through the company. So when you're thinking about answering a question about leadership, just think about communication, delegation, resource allocation, resolving problems, fixing issues, being the person who gets the dirty work done, and also the one who gets results and meets those deadlines. The reason why I say about getting the dirty work done is I think a lot of times there's this misconception that a leader is just somebody who kind of points at people and tells people to do things and sits there and does nothing. When really my experience, and I know the experience of many of my peers, many professionals, is that somebody who is a leader is really expected to be the person who makes difficult decisions, has to do the extra work, and sometimes has to carry out work that is kind of thankless and nobody's even gonna notice that you've done it. But that is the job of a good leader. Number 4, what's your biggest weakness? I think this is one of those questions that people really struggle with. It's one of those strength-based questions, and it's quite direct. What I really like about picking out weaknesses question, and I'm sure that we will cover this at some point in our awesome answers series, is I quite like weaknesses that are real, that are honest, and also that have a lesson and a sort of teachable moment attached to it. So for example, for myself, I'm not particularly good at the finer details. For me, particularly as an entrepreneur, I suppose, and somebody who has lots of different projects and things going on and clients, I find that I will forget the small details, like sending a tax reference number for an invoice, or doing a lot of my video editing is done by my assistant. It's just because I don't have the time. Instead of beating myself up and thinking that's something I really need to be better at, I just think I need to be working on the business as much as possible in a way that generates more revenue, more interest, and more value for our clients. So I would probably use that and also say, well, the way that I've overcome that is by getting an assistant. And you might say, well, that's all very well for you, Mike, but I can't get an assistant. But you can think there's many, many different things. It could be, you know, recently I listened to a candidate talk about the fact that sometimes he has a tendency to rush. But what he learned was, through trading a variety of currencies and equities, is that wasn't something that he could do anymore because he would lose money. So he learned to be much more patient, much more considered in his decision making, and he found that to be really good. So I think pick something else that's true. One thing I don't particularly like about my biggest weakness, or someone saying I work too hard, I'm a perfectionist, I can't say no, that type of thing. It's boring, and as much as possible, if you can be authentic, it's really useful. As long as it's not something, you know, too horrendous, like, oh, I just can't ever seem to get there on time. That's not really a weakness, is it? That's just stupid. Number 5, tell me about a time when you overcame a problem at work. Now, this is a good example of a work-based problem and the context of overcoming that problem, whether that be with a project, a deadline, getting information, or with other members of staff, or potentially even with management. And I can think of many, many different examples, whether it be, I don't know, cleaning a coffee bar, or whether it be a disagreement that you had with a colleague. Again, thinking about the star-based format and learning how to resolve difficulties and issues in a professional way, which is generally me sitting down with another person, having a conversation one-to-one, and setting out some boundaries and expectations. I'm kind of talking about that more from a management perspective, but I think generally from a student's perspective or a new professional coming into the industry, something to look at is just say, well, look, I'm understanding that other person's point of view, I'm listening to what they have to say, and I'm working to try and resolve that problem to make sure that we're all on the same page. Number 6, tell me about your proudest achievement. I love this question. Whenever it comes up, I feel like it's a really good opportunity and it gives you your time to shine. Please don't give achievements that to me are a bit just kind of bogus.
You're a liar and a thief.
Sometimes people talk about a project that they've handed in, or just something that's really small and innocuous, and to be honest, it just sounds like you're trying to tell me what I want to hear, and I don't really care. And one thing particularly I found for students and international students is that they will undersell themselves. their international experience and the things that they've gone through. That's something actually I discussed recently with I think one of the founders from Student Circus. Just this constant and a reflection from employers that they had engaged with, just saying, look, don't undersell yourself, whether that be that you publish poetry or you've played in a sports competition or that you've traveled a lot. Give something that you are truly proud of, whatever that may be, and don't sell yourself short. Question 7, tell me about a recent piece of news which has affected the insurance or pensions industry. A great question. For any industry and for any company, you always want to have a little bit of the read of the news that is relevant to that company and to that industry. You don't have to understand it really in depth. And what I recommend is that, say for example, you want to learn about the insurance industry, then just type into Google insurance industry news, because there's going to be a website for that. There's going to be somewhere where you can go and just learn specifically about the issue. And what I'd say to you is pick out a story that really speaks to you, something that you find interesting, or the bare minimum that you think is simple to explain. Because just remember, if it's simple, then you're more likely to remember it and to be able to deliver the answer fluently. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video about Willis Towers Watson's video interview. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop a comment below with a thumbs up or just the next company you'd like us to cover, and subscribe to the channel for new videos every week. Good luck.